I was thinking about going on to Twitch, but I didn't. I might though. Oh, yeah, Vicky said she was on your Facebook page. Ah, here we are.
Okay,
Okay.
we're live. There we go. All right, welcome everyone to Fearless Fridays. My name is David Gonzalez. With me today is Vicky, Stacy Lynn Harp. I'm. You had to say Vicky's name right before we went on.
I did. My fault. My bad.
This is Stacy Lynn Harp, host of Bible News Radio, and today we're going to be talking about pushing past your fears to achieve your goals and dreams. So, Stacy, why don't you go ahead and give me a little information about yourself? And
Okay.
did I just
Well,
call you Vicky again? I might
yeah.
have.
There's no picture on the broadcast right now, so it looks. Oh,
There we
there it
are.
is. It just showed up, Vicky. Trying
That's
lost
OBS
connection.
for you. It has a little delay.
No, it
Again,
was actually it was doing it with me earlier.
okay,
Okay.
then that's just
Let me share this out. I'm gonna share it out
Periscope.
first. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we know it's working now. Okay. Anyway, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
So this broadcast is being tricasted to Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. Because I cannot look at three conversations at once intelligently, please, by all means, go on Twitter and tweet to the hashtag Fearless Fridays Live, all one word. And that way I can read your question during the live broadcast. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much for coming. Your time and attention is very important to me. So, Stacy, go ahead and tell me about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it, David.
Oh,
I think
thank
you're doing
you.
a great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I am your sweet and lovable host of Bible News Radio, and I broadcast every single day on Periscope, Facebook Live, and YouTube at 4 p.m. Central Time. And our show is basically a Christian worldview show. Am I looking in the right place, by the way?
Just
Just
looking at the lens.
okay. So that's a little bit about me. I'm married to my husband, Randall Pandle Bareface. It's not his
Ah,
real name. And for almost 26 years, which makes me feel super old. So
my
it's a little bit
parents
about me.
just had their 37th anniversary.
Okay.
And when I got their anniversary card, they don't make enough anniversary cards that accurately describe, a wedding or a marriage of that time. Because all of it's so, they're either religious or they're, very lovey dovey. So I had to actually edit the card that I bought. So I said, you guys have lived years of wonderful life together, showing love. Then I added, try not to kill each other before the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
Randall's grand. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that Randall's grandparents, when I knew him, when we would go visit his grandparents, they were in their mid 80s. They'd been married for like 60 years, and near the end of both of their lives, they would place these little post-it notes on light switches,
Uh huh.
and one the grandma wrote to grandpa was, if you shut this off, I'm gonna hit you in the nose. And I mean, there was these type of notes all throughout the house because he was a retired fireman and he had dementia in his older things. So he, as a fireman, would go and unplug stuff like her oxygen and things like that. And so she would write all these cute little notes that if it was anybody else, you'd be like, what? Anyway, it was kind of funny.
Yeah, my grandparents were very similar to that. So tell me, what? Tell me why did you start Bible News Radio?
Well, that's a great question. I was finishing up graduate school and I
Mm-hmm.
was blogging. I had started a blog. I was doing political activism on my blog, And I had a guy contact me who contacted me regarding my blog, and he was working on the Chronicles of Narnia film,
Mm-hmm.
and he liked what I was doing, and he offered me an opportunity to get an ad on my blog for a book about Ronald Reagan, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome, that's super good. He invited me down to NRB, the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, to hang out with him in the Chronicles of Narnia booth. And then at the very end, he reneged on it and said, no, psych, you can't visit me. But something in me went, you know what, I should go down there anyway. Because I thought, what a butthead. If you're this guy who's actually giving me an opportunity to go meet him, and then he pulls the meat. And so anyway, I went down, hung out for a couple hours, and finally somebody let me in. And basically that's where it was born, just the idea.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I've been there when someone's, created an opportunity, and then at the last minute, um, that opportunity disappeared. I was actually an hour away from booking my hotel and my flight to be a speaker somewhere, and we had no communication going on, and you know, within an hour of everyone pretty much email blasting the organizer canceled the event. So at least I was saved, a good amount of money. So, we're talking about fears, and how fears can really debilitate us from, accomplishing what we're trying to accomplish. So, um, were there any fears for Bible News Radio that, kept you from accomplishing what you wanted to?
Well, I would not with Bible News Radio. I've never
Okay.
Bible News Radio is my no fear zone, and that's actually the
Okay.
truth. Whenever I'm in Bible News Radio mode, I can go anywhere and everything. But I can tell you, before I started Bible News Radio, and when I was going through all my recovery, because I'm a sexual abuse survivor and was very, very badly abused as a child. When I was going through my recovery in the earlier part of my life, I
Mm-hmm.
actually was filled with anxiety. I suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, and at one point, I was actually agoraphobic. I was spent virtually all my time at my house, and I was afraid to leave it except for therapy and church. It took me years to get through that. True story.
So, how, what were some of the techniques, that helped you get away from that fear to get, to help you process that situation?
I would say the biggest thing that helped me get through it was using cognitive behavioral therapy. Learning to change how I think helped me to learn to reduce my anxiety, and learning specific um, techniques to be able to deal with things like a lot of grounding techniques, which are really popular. I'm a cognitive behavioral trained therapist, so I actually applied what I learned in school to myself, and I also actually did what my therapist told me to do. So that
Well,
was a big part of
you
it.
kind of didn't have an excuse of not knowing what to do, since you were trained in that. Um,
Yeah.
so when you say like a grounding therapy, what does that mean?
What it means is like the number one thing I try to help people with who are all over the map, or they feel super anxious, or they have social anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
is to take an object. This happens to be a ball. But I actually recommend for adults, use your keys. If you have a really nice keychain, you can take your keychain, and you can always ground yourself with it. So basically you hold the object in your hand,
Yeah,
and
I got
make
some
sure you're
keys
in a
right here.
safe
So,
environment. Yeah, so make sure you're in a safe environment.
well, I'm near my
Where
kitchen, so I'm hoping my kitchen's safe.
Yeah, And the first thing I would do with a client is I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you feeling right now? And usually if they're anxious, they're going to say hi, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever.
Okay.
And then I would say, okay, let's get your object. This is your object.
Okay.
And you need to shut your eyes.
Okay.
And then what I do is I ask questions. Like I will ask you to tell me what it is that you're feeling in your hand. Like you're holding your keys, obviously. So with your eyes shut, I want you to focus on what the object in your hand and ask you, what does the object in your hand feel like?
I feel an oval remote lock and a rectangular gym pass that I don't use, and my keys.
Okay, is it hot or cold?
Keys are cool, the others are room temperature.
Okay, and is it hot? Is it soft?
No.
Okay, so, and if I would also have you feeling the object right now. You're just holding it, but I would have you feel it. Like rub your hand across
like
your
this.
particular, yeah, and talk about how each object feels there.
Okay, well, like this is smooth, keys are rough, the remote start is bumpy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so you do that, and then after a couple of minutes of getting you to focus on that particular thing, then I'd tell you to open up your eyes, and then tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling right now?
Okay, cool. Well, that was, and it's probably about a 2 or 3, so. Yeah, so the reason why I went ahead and did that was that way our viewers can kind of get an example that they could use. Because, sometimes when we use terms, especially for a field of study, people, we get that where my day job is at Amazon. We use so much jargon, and we're used to it, especially me. I've been there almost half a decade. So there's stuff that, terms I use that I fly by with, and I forget, oh yeah, the new person doesn't know what I'm talking about. I might as well speak Latin. And sometimes I speak Latin just to mess with them.
I believe it.
Just to see the look on their face. Yeah. So, okay, so you do that. That was grounding. Use cognitive therapy. What was the second one?
It's actually cognitive behavioral.
Cognitive behavior, sorry. And what was the second?
Well, what I just took you through was a grounding.
Yeah.
I call it a grounding.
I thought there was one in between there. I don't know, that just my old age. They cut my hair yesterday, and I think part of the brain went with it. So yeah, they cut a lot of hair off.
Yeah, but it looks good. It looks really good on you. I like it.
Well, what's funny is I'm very particular to the breeze now because I feel it. So, going beyond that, what were some of the other techniques you used to get beyond that fear, from the situation? Again, you had a very serious situation of abuse. So, what can, let's say our viewers, some of our viewers may have handled, had sustained abuse in one form or another in their life, and they may be feeling fear to express it or vocalize it. What would you recommend to them?
I would recommend they get into therapy and actually work at it. That's what I would ultimately recommend. I think a lot of people are, they talk about recovery, but very few people actually want to do the work. And this is why I say that I think people should. And by the way, I don't really. This isn't loading at all. So I can't see
Okay.
any questions or anybody's even in there. But I would say that the main thing is, I would encourage people to get into therapy. Now, whether or not you're a Christian or you're not, you can find a biblical pastor if you prefer, or you can find a well thought out therapist. I would make sure that whoever you picked, I would look at their background, their references, and if you know somebody who's personally seen them, that's probably the best bet. But the thing is, if you're going to spend 50, 75, $80 or 100, $120 an hour to go see somebody to help you with their problem, then you would be very smart to actually do what they tell you to do. Otherwise, you're just throwing your money away. So my attitude has always been, and it always was when I went through therapy, I don't want to pass down the same behavior to my children if God had blessed me with them. I didn't. I don't have children because I didn't get blessed with them, but I do influence a lot of different people, and I don't want that unhealthy behavior being something that's hindering me from helping other people, because dysfunction attracts dysfunction. So my advice would be, if you're going to get into therapy, actually do the work. And that's where most people get scared, because they get stuck and then they're not sure, well, it's like wearing a pair of jeans that are really super old. They're super comfortable,
Yeah.
but they look like crap, right? So you need a new pair. You need a new pair of jeans. And sometimes the new pair of jeans aren't nearly as comfortable as the old ones, but you have to get used to being in them. So it means that you have to get to the place where where you can sustain the uncomfortableness of the new situation, and that's where people have a hard time, because victim thinking and all that becomes very common and comfortable, and so people don't want to, they won't move beyond it because that's what they know. And so therapy, if you do it good and you do cognitive behavioral therapy, it will force you to change your perspective and to look a different way. And it's hard and it takes time, and people don't like the fact that it takes time. But that's my main recommendation.
I like the fact that you use the analogy of the genes, because I want to point out, that sometimes, you know even though having that fear, sometimes that's used as a comfort net, um, or like as you said, a comfortable pair of old jeans that you really should replace, but you're just so comfortable with them.
Yeah.
And so I really like that analogy. It really, it, I think that's a very relatable analogy. Um, it reminds me that I have to buy a pair, because my jeans. I'm one of those people that will hold on to clothing. I have a Buddy Guy concert shirt from 2008. So that shirt's a decade old. I still wear it. Yes, I am one of those old guys that you see with the concert tee that, dates how old I am.
Yeah, but you're not that old. How old are you?
I'm 35. I know I'm not that old, but I like poking fun at myself, um, as I get older, you know, because Lord knows my dad will if I don't.
Yeah, the
He,
30s
lo-
are a good
he
decade.
loves to point out all my gray hairs now, and which is funny because he's completely gray. Like, are you kidding me? Um, so you know that those two things, getting out of your comfort zone, um, you know,
Right.
that grounding technique, the therapy, and really, that was an awesome bit of advice of, research, who you're going to go to therapy for, um,
Mm-hmm.
if you were abused, I would try to find, someone that, probably specializes in that because they're probably going to be more knowledgeable and able to help you. And I think the same thing could be said for finding a mentor, if you're trying to break through fears in your job, career, in business. You know, if you're going to, if you want to start, doing wine, let's say, just you want to, be a vintner or you want to be a winemaker, um, you know, and it's fear that's driving you back, well, find someone that does wine and that's knowledgeable, and then, who will teach you about the craft. You wouldn't go to someone on Wall Street to tell you how to make wine. No, you would go to someone who specializes in that craft. Um,
Right.
which is, again, going to therapy or getting a mentor to get you past those fears. Um, you know,
Well, I've had both
Go ahead.
actually. I've had
Now, I'm
good
wearing earbuds.
therapists.
I don't know why. I just put my ears in my microphone. I need more
I've had good
coffee.
Yeah, I've had good therapists. I have had one mentor that I highly respect and regard, and I've had a couple of marriage counselors. So they, I think though, I mean, aside from just those people, I think that every day, I think everybody can somehow help you if you're willing to learn and look and listen and do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you, what are some ways that everyday people have helped you?
Say that one more time.
What
I
are,
didn't, I didn't
you said, people in your everyday life can help you,
understand.
and I'd like to know how some have helped you.
Okay, well, I'll give you a perfect example. I play pickleball. You probably know that if you know anything about me. I
Yes,
put a lot of
Stacy is a very avid pickleball player, and if you don't know what pickleball is, just follow her feed. You will learn. You'll learn through osmosis.
it's true. Okay, but pickleball, is for me, the community of people that I hang out with. There's about 75 people that I know that play pickleball with me. I mean, we all show up and all that.
Hmm.
And what's, you know, I'll give you an example of something that happened. I had a situation because tempers flare at pickleball because people are so competitive. So you have people who go who just want to have fun, then you have people who are like going for blood. And if you get the blood ones with the fun ones, it's like Anyway, one day I was teasing one of the very competitive people because some of my friends it was a really tight game, and my friend that I wanted to win actually beat the super good one by 1 point. And so I was kind of like going, and I just teased him. I said, I said, "Ha, you lost," and it wasn't said in a mean way. It was just kind of said like, "Hey, I'm really glad, you're so good. I can't believe these people actually beat you." Well, that ended up becoming a big bone of contention within the pickleball community, and because these competitive people, they really don't like it. And so one of the things that I've had to learn is that on the court, I got to listen. I have to actually listen to people, and I observe people, and I watch people, and I got to realize that, that for some of these people, this is their life. For me, it's not. I have a whole other life. I take care of my dad who's got dementia. I got my husband. I got my dogs. I got my brother. I got you people out there in Periscope and everywhere else. And I have my guests that I interview on my show all the time. I mean, I have a full life. It's not empty at all. But some of these people, pickleball, that's their life. And so they've taught me about community in a way that I've never learned about in like church, because I'm with these people 12 hours a week. I mean, when I go play for 2 or 3 hours, about 5 days a week. So it's actually maybe closer to 15 hours a week. Is that right? Yeah. Depends. Between 12 and 15 hours a week, I'm on the court. So if I can't have good, strong relationships with my friends on the court, then I'm not learning anything. Then, I have a problem. But because I've learned how to become friends with people who are older than me, who are slower than me, and also people who are younger. Like a couple of days ago, there was this young boy named Aniston, who's about 10 years old. He loves to come on the court. Of course, very few people don't want to play with him because he can barely lift the paddle, let alone actually hit the ball. But, you know, I look at it and I go, well, you know what? Okay, I just played all these games with these fast people. I'm sweaty. I'm done. And now I'll go play with this kid and give him some encouragement and show him how to hold the ball and how to hit it and all that. And so I see lessons everywhere. I take care of my dad, who's almost 90, who can barely walk, who his gait is very, very slow. So I'm walking at a snail's pace. And I can tell you what, the last 4 years, God has had me in this classroom where everything is super slow. And it's like, okay, God, what are you trying to teach me? Because this is irritating, you know. To take my dad to a doctor's appointment, just as an example, you know, I have to get him ready an hour ahead of time before I go to the actual doctor, because he's not going to remember I'm going to pick him up at a certain time because he has dementia. And, you know, so I've had to learn to shift things. So, you know, I can watch the birds that come to my bird feeder and learn a lesson. I can look at my dogs and get a lesson because because there's always a lesson, you know what I mean? And it's just whether or not you can hear it or see it. And so I advocate just shutting up and listening, because there's always something that you can learn. And pickleball is life, Randall said just that in the chat room. It's actually working now.
Oh, good, good.
Finally. Yeah. Oh, he's back. So we got Melanie, Liz, Dorothy. I don't know who else, if anybody else is in there. That's all I can see.
Well, thank you everyone for coming in. You know, I definitely appreciate it. You know, I hope you're getting something from this. You know, Fearless Fridays is here to help give hope to those who, you know, may not know what path to take, or they know where their goal is but don't know which door to open to get there. And, you know, my goal is to provide real world perspectives, so that way you're not going to open that wrong door and waste your time, energy, finances, you know, your hard work. You know, you shouldn't be chasing a dream that, you know, in a manner that won't benefit you.
Right.
So thank you for coming in, Stacy. This is, you provide some phenomenal stuff. You know, to, you know, remember, viewers, you could get beyond your fear. And, you know, fear, you know, it's just a roadblock, is not, you know, it's not finality. You know, you can work around it or through it. So, we are just about wrapping up the half hour, and I want to say thank you again, Stacy. You can find her on Periscope at Bible News Radio, and I highly recommend a listen. She has really good conversations with her guests. You know, even if you're not of the Christian faith, go there. You might learn something. You know, learn about different perspective. You know, I found it very educational to go to people who I don't always have the same perspective as. And if I go there and, as Stacy said a few moments ago, and just listen, I'm able to learn. I'm able to gain a perspective that I may not have had before I entered that chat room or that broadcast. You know, and that's how I've been able to make a lot of friends that I normally wouldn't have, because I've been able to learn from them just by coming in and opening my ears and shutting my mouth, which is a hard thing to do when you're a broadcaster, because you get used to talking. So thank you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, I've been doing broadcasting for 13 years, and one of the things you learn as a broadcaster, the more you do it, is that everybody has something to teach you. I mean, they just do. And you learn what your style is after a while. You get relaxed and you go, oh, okay. A couple of days ago, I did an interview I thought was horrendous. I thought it was the worst interview, like, and in the top 5 of worst interviews in my life. I thought that the guest was horrible. But you know what? Instead of going and whining about it afterwards, because I was like, it was like, this isn't how I wanted to go. I told myself, you know what? Even if I thought it was horrible, there might have been somebody that got something really great out of there. And actually, what happened was, I got an email. Somebody emailed me about it, and they're like, "Oh, that was a good interview. I really enjoyed it." Blah blah. But even more so, the guest got something out of it, and they were super encouraged by it. And so I always try to keep that perspective when I don't feel like things go perfect during a broadcast. Because it's not about you as the broadcaster. It's about your audience ultimately.
Definitely. Oh yeah, I've definitely had those interviews where I'm like, oh, that could have gone much better. But I've also learned, you know what? Something's always gonna foul up, and you can't let it stop you. You can't, hinge your whole thing on that. It's just, take it as it comes, and as long as you remember why you're doing it, and you maintain that focus, I think you're gonna be okay. Um, so, thank you so much, Stacy, for coming on, and I wish everyone a wonderful and safe weekend. And please don't let fear stop you in achieving your dreams. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.